Hey there, fellow guitar geeks. Guitar Guts back here today with one of the eternal questions that plague guitar setups, and that is how to get traditional single coils to balance with humbucking pickups in a Stratocaster guitar. If you hear a little bit of chattering and scratching in the background, it's because my gerbils have shown up to watch the shoot today, so if you can ignore that, we'll get on with the video. One of the things that's always been a challenge in guitar setups is finding a set of single coils that balance really well with a humbucker in a Stratocaster guitar. One of the causes of that is that single coil pickups are a lot less powerful than humbucking pickups as a general rule. And when you're trying to balance those things out and you're flipping your selector switch back and forth from the single coils to the humbucker, a lot of times there's a huge jump in volume, a huge jump in power that just feels unbalanced. Now you can solve that several different ways. A lot of people try to install more powerful single coil pickups to give the single coil positions a little more juice. But when you do that, it tends to make the traditional single coil sound disappear. It's hard to find good single coil pickups that are more powerful than traditional but still sound like traditional. And if you go the noiseless route, the same is true there as well. They don't sound quite like traditional Strat single coils. You could also install a much less powerful humbucker, but then when you do want that extra power, when you want to rip out some soaring leads, it just leaves a little to be desired. And so there's always going to be a little bit of a balance problem between traditional single coils and humbucking pickups. Some guitars solve that to a degree by including an option to keep the Strat a little bit more traditional, like this Fender USA Strat, which includes this S1 switch right here, which, if pushed in, will turn off one of the coils on the humbucker and leave you with a traditional, fairly traditional sounding single coil in the bridge position, so that you have basically a traditional Strat, and if you want it, you can engage the S1 switch and turn the humbucker on full, and you have that extra power for leads and shredding if you want it. Now, that's not the only problem that you run into when you try to balance single coils and humbuckers. There's also the issue of tone pots, and that's what I wanted to talk about mostly today. When you're using single coils, the traditional tone pot value that people use is a 250K, which is what this is. I don't know if you can read that there. I've got 225 pencil on there because that's what it read at some point back when I bought it. Humbuckers, on the other hand, use 500K tone pots, and that's a little bit different value. The problem comes in when you're trying to figure out which ones to install in the Stratocaster to run both sets of pickups, because the pickups mainly run, unless you've got some weird wiring scheme, to the same volume pot. If you install a 250K volume pot, that could muffle the bridge pickup, the humbucker, to the point where it sounds muddy and rather indistinct, and it can kill off some of the highs on your pickup. If, on the other hand, you go with 500K volume pots, it tends to leave the single coils a little too bright and raw, and they can sound very ice-picky because they need a little bit of muffling in order to tame them a little bit. So it's always a dilemma as to which to use. I'll show you another little glitch that you'll run into when you try to use 250Ks. There are some pickups, like the Seymour Duncan JB, which works fairly well with 250K tone pots. But here's the issue that I've run into several times while I've been working with setups like this. Let me adjust this to where you can see my meter up here. This is supposedly a 250K tone pot, and I'm going to use my meter to read what it actually is. So that one meters out at only 217. It's supposed to be 250. And you'll find a lot of them like this that don't have a reading really anywhere close what they should. This is one that I pulled out of someone's guitar that was supposed to be a 250. and this one reads 231. So that's a little bit closer, but that's still a good ways away from 250. Humbuckers really need at least 250 to sound good, and I found that that's the problem that I've run into several times. 250K pots are not necessarily 250K pots. 500K pots are not necessarily 500K pots. Here's a 500, and if you can see the meter, that one's going to read 488, not 500. The solution that I found to this is using 300K pots. They don't always meter out at 300K either, but at least they're not below 250 most of the time. For instance, this 300K pot that I haven't used is metering out at 260. Right, so that's just right above what you need for the traditional single coil volume pot. And this one that's supposed to be 300K meters out at 260. So that's just you know, about 10 above what you should have for a 250K pot. Much better than being, you know, quite a bit under what you need. Gibson has used 300K pots with humbuckers for years and years in their Les Pauls. And I figure they know a little bit about what they're doing. They've been in the business for a while. This is a Gibson 300K that meters out to 275. So my solution to the imbalance caused by not having the right tone pots run in a Stratocaster has been to use 300K pots for everything. The single coils seem to do fairly well with them. It doesn't make them too bright in most cases. As a matter of fact, I think it actually adds a little bit of character to them, especially the net pickup, which can sound a little muffled and woofy sometimes just because of where it's at. And the 300K doesn't muffle the bridge pickup enough to ruin its character. So that's my suggestion. I've found over the years that 300Ks work better, and I almost always install them in the volume position, and sometimes I also install them in the tone positions as well. But let me know what you think. If you've got different results from different experiments, let me know in the comments section, and let's talk about what you've discovered, and let me know what you think of my little way of dealing with the hum single problem. See you later.